Hey guys, tonight we're going even darker. A place colder than any plague ward, quieter than any battlefield. We're descending into the medieval torture chamber. Forget nights and feasts. This is what happened when you said the wrong thing, prayed the wrong way, or just pissed off the wrong noble. For the next few hours, we're diving deep into the worst punishments history ever dared to invent. And trust me, you're not sleeping because it's peaceful. You're sleeping because your brain's giving up. So before we get shackled in, go ahead and like the video and subscribe, but only if this kind of grim midnight history is your kind of bedtime story. And drop a comment, let me know where you're tuning in from, and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights. Maybe light a candle. Maybe not. They like to use those for drips of hot wax. Let's slip into the darkness together. You're in chains now. Sweet dreams. The rack doesn't scream. You do. At first glance, it looks almost civilized. Just a wooden frame, a crank, a few ropes. Nothing monstrous, nothing baroque. Nothing that screams torture device until you realize it was designed to take you apart, inch by inch, with the quiet patience of a butcher sharpening his knife. It's simple, yes, elegant in its economy, and brutally effective. Because the rack doesn't kill you. Not right away, it just opens you up like a broken toy and leaves you there to think about it. They lay you down flat. That's how it always starts. The wood is cold, smooth in places from use, slick in others from the things that have been wrung out of people who came before you. Sweat, blood, something worse. Your wrists are tied above your head, ankles below, leather straps if you're lucky, iron shackles if you're not. Then come the cranks, one at each end. Big wooden cylinders with iron teeth and handles stained by 100 trembling hands. The torturer places his hands on the crank like a baker kneading dough. And then he turns. At first, it's just a stretch, an ache in your shoulders, a tug in your hips. You felt worse after a long day in the fields. You almost convince yourself it's manageable. You almost convince yourself you're strong enough. But the rack is patient. The rack is a professional. It doesn't need you to scream immediately. It knows you will. The pulling intensifies. Tendons stretch beyond their limits. Your spine begins to object, loudly. Not in words, but in noises you didn't know your body could make. Pops, cracks, a deep grinding that reverberates through your chest like the sound of frozen wood splitting under weight. Your shoulders begin to rise out of their sockets, like they're trying to escape your body. Your legs twitch violently, then go rigid. The pain is no longer local, it's systemic. It flows through your nerves like boiling water, looking for the weakest parts to tear first. You clench your teeth. You think of your family, of your God, of something that might make this moment bearable. But the pain doesn't leave room for prayer. It doesn't leave room for anything except survival, and even that starts to feel optional. Then, the interrogator leans in. He asks a question, calmly, like a friend. He wants a name, a place, a confession. Maybe you give it. Maybe you lie. Maybe you stay silent. Either way, the crank turns again. Another inch, another rupture, another symphony of snapping cartilage and tearing muscle. Your joints are no longer joints. They're fragments. Your body's design has been dismantled, one measured twist at a time. You can't feel your fingers. Or maybe you can, but they're somewhere too far away for you to reach. Your hips throb like broken hinges. Your back is on fire. Still, they keep going. Because the rack isn't for extracting truth, it's for breaking possibility. It's for teaching your body that it is no longer yours. It belongs to the machine now, to the crank, to the cold hands on the handle. You are not a person. You are a problem being solved with geometry and tension. And when they finally stop, if they stop, it's not because they've believed you. It's because they've decided you're no longer useful. You're left hanging there, longer now, stretched beyond your proportions, your shoulders halfway to dislocation, your hips misaligned, your spine a question mark. You don't scream anymore. You just breathe in ragged gasps, your body learning the new shape of pain. The rack doesn't kill you, not unless they forget to stop. But you'll never walk the same. Never lift your arms the same. Never sleep without hearing the creak of the crank. Simple, elegant, effective. That's the rack. And now it's part of you. It looks harmless at first, almost beautiful, in the way terrible things sometimes are. Polished metal shaped vaguely like a pear, with curved petals held together by a screw mechanism at its base. No blades, no bloodstains, nothing overtly violent, just a tool, a device, a piece of cold, gleaming iron that could sit quietly on a table and be mistaken for some strange kitchen utensil from a forgotten age. But that's only if you don't know what it does. Once you do, it becomes something else entirely, a flower that only blooms inside you. They call it the pear of anguish. The name itself is a mockery. It suggests something organic, almost poetic. In truth, it's neither. It is precision cruelty, designed to target the most intimate, the most private parts of the body. And it is always personal. The pear doesn't just hurt, it humiliates, it violates. There are 3 places it goes: the mouth, the rectum, or the vagina, each one chosen based on the alleged crime. Blasphemers get the mouth. Slanderers, gossips, those who spoke too freely about priests or kings or sins they weren't supposed to name, sodomy, homosexuality, any unnatural act that earned insertion from below. Women accused of witchcraft or adultery, the other end. The pear finds your softest entry point and claims it as home. Once it's inside, the real pain begins. There's a screw at the base, simple and sturdy, often turned with a crank. As it rotates, the 4 metal petals begin to open outward, slowly, deliberately. No quick rips, no sudden jabs, just a bloom of expanding metal deep inside flesh that was never meant to be opened that way. If it's the mouth, the pain radiates into the jaw first. Teeth loosen, gums tear. The palate splits like brittle wood under pressure. You can't scream because your jaw won't move anymore. It's forced wide, dislocated, broken from within. And if you do manage a sound, it bubbles past your own blood. The metal scrapes bone and crushes the roots of your molars. Your face swells. Your tongue bleeds. You taste rust and regret. Lower insertions are no less vicious. The petals open inside tight muscle and fragile tissue. They tear, rip, stretch. No mercy, no clean edges. Nerve endings scream, and the body's reflexes become your enemy, tightening, clenching, trying to push out the foreign object and only making the agony worse. Bleeding is inevitable, so is infection. Some victims die days later from wounds they couldn't see but felt for every remaining second. And here's the part that lingers. The pear isn't even always used to extract confessions. Sometimes it's punishment. Sometimes it's spectacle. An act of vengeance dressed up as justice. It doesn't need to be followed by questions. Sometimes the act itself is the answer. When they pull it out, if they pull it out, your body is no longer yours. It's been hollowed, rearranged, taught a new language of pain you'll never unlearn. You don't speak much after. You can't. And even if you could, who would believe you? Your mouth doesn't work right. Your voice is slurred. Your words spill out through shattered teeth and trembling lips, if they come at all. They clean the pear afterward, meticulously. Rub away the blood, boil it, polish it, until it shines. Ready for the next mouth, the next wound, the next soul to be torn open from the inside. It looks like a fruit. It isn't. It's medieval silence, delivered petal by petal. You're naked. That's the first thing you register. The cold of the air, the prickle of exposed skin, the absence of cloth between you and the eyes watching in silence. They've stripped you bare, not just of your clothes, but of your dignity. Because the Judas Cradle isn't just about pain, it's about degradation. About transforming your body into a stage and making suffering the performance. Your leader dragged toward the device. It stands in the center of the room like a piece of abstract sculpture, deceptively simple. A wooden base, thick and sturdy, 4 legs to keep it stable. And rising from the center of it all, the feature that gives it its name, a pyramid-shaped seat, carved from solid wood, sharpened at the top into a single punishing point. It's not razor thin. That would be merciful. No, it's blunt enough to push rather than pierce, to tear muscle and tissue slowly instead of cutting cleanly. Precision crafted for maximum trauma. They lift you up. You struggle, but your arms are bound. Your legs useless beneath you. Your body squirms like a fish on a hook. Then they position you above the point either with a rope around your waist or under your arm's end. They begin to lower you. Slowly. Always slowly. Gravity does the rest. At first, there's resistance. Your body, desperate to protect itself, tightens reflexively. Muscles clench. Your core locks up. You think, maybe you can hold yourself. Maybe if you just breathe, stay still, don't panic. But the human body wasn't built to balance on a spike. And they know this. That's the entire point. The longer you resist, the worse it gets. The tip begins to press inward. Not with speed, with weight. Your own weight. Every breath, every twitch, every flinch sends you lower. There's no sharp stab, just the slow bloom of internal agony like a flower made of fire unfolding between your legs. You feel tendons stretch, nerves light up, the pressure builds, skin splits, muscle tears. Your body opens around the wood like paper soaked in oil. And they watch. Sometimes they laugh. Sometimes they ask questions, but not always. The cradle doesn't need a reason. It's both punishment and entertainment. A tool for confession, yes, but also a lesson for others. This is what happens to the disobedient, to witches, to heretics, to those who defy their place. You scream, of course. Everyone does. But eventually the screams stop not because the pain ends, but because your voice breaks. Your throat swells. Your mind begins to fray. You fall into a kind of animal state, shaking, drooling, trying to lift yourself but only making it worse. Some versions are crueler. The rope might be tied to a crank so they can raise and drop you repeatedly. Or weights are added to your ankles, pulling you lower, inch by inch, until something vital gives way. You don't bleed much at first. That comes later when the tip reaches deeper, rips something it shouldn't, opens veins meant to stay hidden. Infection is almost guaranteed. The wounds aren't clean. They're jagged, twisted, forced into shape by splintered wood and your own trembling descent. Eventually, you're removed. Or not. Some are left overnight, suspended in agony. Sleep isn't possible. Consciousness flickers. You beg for death, but they're not ready to give it. The Judas Cradle isn't meant to kill you fast. It's meant to make you die slowly, first your body, then your will, then whatever was left of your pride. It doesn't cut, it invades. It doesn't ask questions. It answers them with silence and splinters. And when they finally lift you off the tip, you are never whole again. Not in body, not in soul. At first, it seems almost absurd, laughable even. A single drop of water clear, harmless, the very stuff of life. No flames, no knives, no spikes, just water. And yet, the most terrifying part of this method is exactly that simplicity. Because here, in the dim stone bowels of medieval justice, pain doesn't need to be violent. It can be patient. It can be quiet. It can arrive one drop at a time. They tie you down flat, arms at your sides, legs straight, leather straps tight enough to cut off circulation, but not so tight that you can't feel. You're not gagged. You're not blindfolded. That would defeat the purpose. They want your senses wide open. They want your eyes staring up at the ceiling, where somewhere above, a single vessel of water waits to betray you. The first drop is almost refreshing, cool, clean, unexpected. It hits the center of your forehead with a soft little splash and slides away, lost in your hairline. You blink. That was nothing. You've been rained on harder, walking to church. Then the second drop comes. Then the third. You begin to notice their rhythm, spaced out, 5, maybe 10 seconds apart, long enough that you can anticipate them, short enough that you can't forget them. The sound begins to echo in your ears, drip, 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 like a metronome for madness. At first, it's just annoying, a twinge, a reflexive flinch with every drop. But the body doesn't take kindly to repetition. The skin, delicate and exposed, begins to redden, then sting, then burn. Over time, that cool kiss of water becomes a hammer, a pinpoint of persistent, merciless pressure. The thing about water torture is that it doesn't destroy the body. It bypasses it, goes straight for the mind. Time begins to bend. You lose count of how long you've been lying there. Minutes feel like hours, hours like eternities. The drops keep falling. You begin to brace for them, every single one. Your body tenses just before impact, then releases, then tenses again, over and over. A cycle of flinching so constant, it becomes its own kind of convulsion. Your thoughts begin to unravel. You can't focus. You can't remember why you're here, who you are, what you were accused of. All you know is the drop. You try to distract yourself. Think of your family, your prayers, a childhood memory, but nothing sticks, nothing holds. Because just as soon as your mind begins to drip its drag back, you're not allowed to leave. Some break after a few hours, others take longer, but eventually all do. You start to hear things, whispers, your own voice saying things you didn't mean. You start to feel like the drop is burrowing into your skull, carving a path to the bone. You imagine it finding your brain, slicing away at reason. You know it's impossible, but it doesn't matter. It feels real. That's enough. Your forehead is raw now, swollen, the skin bruised from nothing but repetition. You begin to sob, not from pain, but from helplessness, because there's nothing to fight. No weapon, no torturer grinning in the corner, just water, just the ceiling, just you. And the drip, always the drip. They say this form of torture can leave no scars. That's a lie. The scars are just invisible, etched deep into the folds of your mind, where sleep used to live. You're not physically broken. You're worse. You're hollowed out, emptied, one drop at a time. The body might heal. The mind never does. They start with your hands. Always the hands. They're small, manageable, and filled with delicate bones that betray you under pressure. No swords, no flames. Just a wooden box with metal teeth and a screw at the top. The thumb screws, so simple they seem laughable, so small they look almost surgical. But pain doesn't scale with size. Pain lives in the nerves, and the hands are a city of them. You're brought to a bench, not tied this time, just held. Firmly. 2 men, one on each arm. You're not even fighting anymore. Maybe because you're already exhausted. Maybe because you think this won't be that bad. It's just the thumbs, after all. What could they possibly do to a finger that hasn't already been done to your soul? They place your hand on the edge of the table and open the device. It looks like a tiny Vice 2 metal plates, the space between them just wide enough for a finger. The torturer hums as he turns the screw counterclockwise. The space opens up. Then he nods for you to pick a finger. You don't, he does. Your thumb goes in first. He aligns it carefully, like a craftsman working with soft wood. Then the plates are lowered, and the screw begins to turn, slowly. At first it feels like pressure. Then it becomes something else entirely. Your thumb flattens, not with a snap, not suddenly. It's worse than that. It happens gradually. The bones inside begin to crack, not all at once, but one after the other, tiny fractures singing out in your nerves like splinters of lightning. You feel the pressure building with every twist of the screw. The skin stretches. The nail splits. Blood seeps out, not in a rush, but in slow, reluctant beads. You scream. Of course you do. Everyone does. The pain is exquisite, sharp and crushing, impossibly focused. There's nowhere for the sensation to go. No limb to flail. No breath to hold that makes it stop. Your whole world shrinks to that one finger, that one joint, that one grinding crack as cartilage collapses under iron. You feel the ridges of the screw vibrating through your bones. You smell blood, metal, sweat. You hear your own heartbeat pounding in your ears like it's trying to escape. Then they stop. Not out of mercy, because they want to start again. Another finger. Maybe the next thumb. Maybe your pinky. Just to vary the pitch of your cries, one after the other. No repetition dulls the agony. Each digit is a fresh orchestra of torment, a new register of sound pulled from your throat. You think of all the things you've ever touched bread, your child's hair, a lover's hand. You wonder if you'll ever feel again. But the answer's already written in your bones, now reduced to paste beneath the iron plates. When they finally remove your hand from the screws, it doesn't look like a hand anymore. It's swollen, misshapen, nails black, skin torn. Bones? Not broken, crushed, pulverized. Turned to something soft and useless. The thumb screws don't kill. They don't even maim in a dramatic way. They just take away your ability to hold anything ever again, including hope, including resistance. And the worst part? There are 9 more fingers to go. There are no whips, no chains, no searing metal pressed against your flesh. Just the quiet ticking of time and a body slowly unraveling under its own weight. Sleep deprivation is the most civilized torture of them all. No mess, no screams, no visible scars, and yet it breaks you in ways even the rack can't. Because while fire wounds the body, sleeplessness devours the mind. It starts with light, always light. The cell never goes dark. A single torch, a lantern, or a hole in the ceiling that lets in enough moonlight to keep your brain just awake enough. You lie on stone, maybe on straw if you're lucky, but comfort is irrelevant. Every time your eyes flutter shut, they come. Not to hit you, not to shout, just to shake you gently, wake you. Whisper your name like a lullaby turned weapon. The first night is manageable. You're tired, yes, but you've been tired before. You blink more often. Your thoughts slow down. Your muscles ache, but you remind yourself this is endurable. You clench your jaw, breathe slowly, wait for the sun to rise. But the sun never matters here. Time is controlled by someone else now. By the second night, your sense of time begins to smear. Minutes stretch like candle wax dripping sideways. You can't tell whether it's morning or evening. Your body starts making mistakes. Your hands twitch involuntarily. Your vision pulses at the edges. You hear footsteps that aren't there. Voices whisper behind walls that don't exist. By the third night, you can't remember how long it's been. You forget if you've eaten. You forget if you've prayed. You forget what it feels like to blink and not flinch. When you try to speak, your voice comes out hoarse and slow, like it's pushing through mud. Words fall apart in your mouth. Sentences die halfway through your lips. You forget why you're here. You forget your name. That's when they ask the questions. Not all at once, just soft things at first. Who else was with you? What did you see? Who gave you the book? You try to answer. You try to stay loyal. But reality keeps shifting under your feet. What you believe is true begins to feel like a dream you had years ago. The faces you once swore to protect are now distant smears in your memory. Were they even real? Were you? By the 4th or 5th night, assuming it's still night, you begin to break. You weep for no reason. You laugh at the sound of dripping water. You start to believe the things they suggest. Maybe you did meet with a stranger. Maybe you did say something wrong. Maybe you are guilty. That's the trick. They don't make you confess through pain. They let you dissolve until the difference between truth and surrender disappears entirely. You'll say anything, believe anything, just to be allowed to close your eyes. But they won't let you. Not yet. Because sleep is mercy, and mercy has a price. They don't hit you. They don't touch you. They just watch. And every time your head droops, they're there. A nudge, a whisper, a splash of cold water. And the agony returns not in fire or iron, but in the knowledge that your body is betraying you minute by minute. Eventually, you stop trying. You sit in a corner, eyes wide, rocking slowly, your mind hollowed out, a shell. Sleep deprivation doesn't need blood. It just waits. And in the end, it takes everything. It looks like a chair. That's what makes it worse. The shape is familiar, even comforting in its outlinea seat. A back armrests. You've sat in a dozen just like it before. But this one isn't made for rest. It's made to unmake you. And as you're dragged toward it, limbs heavy, vision swimming, your brain hasn't quite processed what you're seeing yet. Not until they turn you around and you glimpse the surface thousands of rusted iron spikes jutting from every angle, like a field of needles welded into wood. They strip you, of course, not all at once, piece by piece, tunic, undershirt, trousers, until you're bare-skinned and exposed, standing in the center of the room like meat about to be pressed. The air is cold, the metal is colder. Then, with a firm shove, they lower you down. The pain is immediate, but it's not sharp the way you'd expect, not like a blade or a nail hammered in. It's worse than that, because the chair isn't meant to stab. Not deeply, not fatally. The spikes are short, just long enough to break the skin, just thick enough to hold. Each one finds a new patch of flesh to enter. Some press against your thighs, others sink into the soft curve of your back. The worst dig beneath your arms, into the armpits, the sides of your ribs, places so sensitive they scream, even at a paper cut. You don't move. You can't move. Every twitch sinks the metal deeper. Every breath shifts your weight just enough to cause a fresh burst of agony. So you freeze. You breathe shallowly. You grit your teeth, and you wait. But they don't leave you there in silence. That would be too easy. They ask questions. They talk. Sometimes they taunt. Sometimes they promise relief if only you'll cooperate. Confess. Name names. Admit what you did. But to answer, you'd have to move your jaw, turn your neck, tilt your head. Each motion sends your nerves into revolt, as dozens of tiny metal mouths bite down harder. The chair doesn't just hurt you. It teaches you to hurt yourself, to stay still, to obey, to weigh every movement against its cost. And it costs everything. Over time, minutes, hours, days, you lose track. The wounds begin to swell. Blood cakes around the spikes, dried and sticky. The rust from the metal leaches into your skin. Infection sets in fast. Fever, shaking, dizziness, but they don't care. You're still breathing, still answering, still useful. Sometimes they tie you to it. Leather straps across the thighs, the chest, the arms, forcing your full weight down into the spikes. No escape, no way to lift yourself, even for a second. Sometimes they add heat torches placed beneath the chair, warming the iron from below until it begins to sear the wounds it already made. You start to hallucinate, faces in the shadows, voices in the cracks between your thoughts. You can't tell whether you're bleeding or dreaming anymore. You smell smoke, but maybe it's just your mind burning away piece by piece. The chair of nails doesn't rush. It doesn't need to. It simply waits for you to sit still long enough for your sanity to give out. And when it does, it doesn't celebrate. It just keeps holding you, softly, like a bed of thorns waiting for the next body. They don't strike you this time. No lashes, no blows. Just a gentle metal rod, polished and cold, held between two gloved hands as they approach. You might even think, for a moment, that you've been spared. That whatever sentence was meant for you has been reduced to something symbolic, a mere punishment of posture. That's before they lift your chin. The heretic's fork is not large. It's not elaborate or theatrical. It's just a piece of iron forked on both ends, sharpened into dull, cruel points, and screwed tight to a leather collar. One end is pressed against the soft spot beneath your chin. The other rests against the upper part of your chest, or sometimes the sternum, or the hollow at the base of your throat. Then they fix the collar in place. There's no slack, no margin. It holds your head up rigid, exposed, fragile. Your neck is locked at a 90-degree angle, eyes straight ahead, head held high. But it's not pride, it's survival. Because if your head nods even slightly, the metal bites. The forks don't cut deeply. They don't need to. A shallow jab, a puncture just enough to draw blood, is more than enough to remind you that rest is no longer an option. The first hour is simple. You're alert, Afraid, adrenaline does the work of discipline. You remain still, upright, breathing through your nose, eyes wide. Every muscle in your neck becomes a tightrope walker, balancing just so. You pray silently, or try to, but even prayer is dangerous now. Bow your head in reverence, and the fork will pierce your skin. Try to look down in shame or regret, and the iron punishes you for it. By the second hour, the burning begins. Deep in the neck, beneath the jaw, along the spine, muscles start to tremble. You didn't realize how much effort it takes just to hold up your head until now. You beg your body to keep still. You whisper mantras of stillness, but your muscles are already losing the fight. Every heartbeat feels like a threat. Every swallow drags your throat against metal. You bleed a little, then a little more. Time passes strangely. There are no windows, no clocks, only the constant throb of your neck and the growing heat of infection where iron has kissed flesh. You try to sleep just for a second. But the moment your chin drops, a sharp stab of pain jerks you awake again. The fork punishes you for dreaming, punishes you for trying to escape, even for a moment. If you were a blasphemer, this was your penance. If you were a heretic, this was your lesson. And if you were innocent, this was your invitation to confess anyway, because you'll say anything for the chance to lie down without being stabbed. The worst part? You can't scream, not properly. To open your mouth wide, to cry out, is to shift your throat, and that too brings the iron's bite. So you weep in silence, eyes darting wildly, tears falling straight down because your face is trapped in a perfect, unmoving angle. Eventually, your body betrays you. Your head droops, the fork pierces. You jerk upright. It happens again and again. A cycle of pain that replaces thought. You don't even remember what you were accused of. You only remember this, that to rest is to bleed, to pray is to suffer, and to nod off is to be stabbed by your own breath. The heretic's fork doesn't need chains. It doesn't scream. It just waits between chin and chest, reminding you that even silence can be torture. It doesn't begin with pain, not the kind you can see, anyway. There are no blades drawn, no flames licking at your skin. Instead, you're marched into the center of town, past the baker's stall and the tavern where men are already drunk by mid-morning. The crowd begins to gather as soon as they see you. Children point. Women shake their heads, men smirk and spit. You're still whole, still breathing, still clothed mostly, but that won't last long. At the edge of the square stands your sentence. The pillory, a wooden frame set chest high, with 3 holes carved into the top plank, 2 for your wrists, 1 for your neck. You're pushed forward. No instructions are needed. Everyone knows how this works. You bend. The upper plank slams down. Your head and hands are now part of the wood, trapped, displayed, deformed by posture and exposure. You're not chained up in a dungeon. You're not bleeding out in some stone chamber. You're upright, in public, for everyone to see. And that's the punishment. You're meant to be seen. The crimes vary: petty theft, gossip, drunkenness, fornication, speaking out of turn, insulting a noble. The charge doesn't matter. The point is to make an example of you, to hold you up like a signpost for what not to be. And so you stand, body bent, arms going numb, neck cramping, as the town takes its turn carving shame into your soul. Rotten vegetables come first, always. Soft tomatoes, onions that squish in your hair and fill your nose with stink, a cabbage that hits like a stone, leaving a welt across your temple. Then come the insults. Some people laugh, others shout scripture, a few just mutter. But all of them look. That's what burns most. The looking. The prolonged, merciless observation of your failure. The children are the cruelest. They're not afraid of you. You're no longer an adult in their eyes. You're a thing now. A joke. They throw mud, urinate near your feet. One climbs up and tries to spit directly into your mouth. He nearly succeeds. Hours pass. Your legs tremble, but you can't fall. Your body is locked in its wooden embrace, forced into stillness while the rest of you breaks down. Sun burns your scalp. Rain soaks your back. Wind dries the spit on your face. You itch, but can't scratch. You cry, but can't hide. Sometimes people come and leer, whispering suggestions of worse punishments. Sometimes they just laugh at your tears. And occasionally, someone kind offers a bit of water or a crust of bread. But even that feels like a performance sepity disguised as generosity. It's all part of the same theater. You're not a person anymore. You're a role being played until the curtain falls. The stocks are worse. They're lower, built to hold your ankles and sometimes your wrists. You're forced to sit or lie down in front of the crowd like livestock waiting to be sold. The angle is awkward. Your spine starts to ache. Sometimes people come by and tie things to your hair. Sometimes they just relieve themselves nearby. And sometimes, the worst of them, wait until nightfall when the guards are asleep and decency takes its leave. You're not executed. That would be too clean. Too final. Public shame is meant to linger, to haunt you long after the wood has been unlatched and your wrists have been freed. People don't forget your face. They don't forget how you looked, dripping with ale and disgrace, stinking of failure and human cruelty. You walk home differently after. If you still have a home, eyes stay down, doors don't open. Even your shadow seems ashamed to follow you. Because sometimes survival is the harshest sentence. They take you to the center of the courtyard, where the whipping post stands like an old friend no one wants to greet. It's not elaborate. Just a thick wooden beam, stained darker at the base where so many backs have pressed, bled, and fallen. The post doesn't judge. It doesn't question guilt or innocence. It simply waits. And when you're brought forward, bound and trembling, it accepts you without hesitation. Your wrists are tied first, pulled up and around the post, high enough to force you to your toes. The strain in your shoulders starts before the whip even touches you. You feel exposed skin stretched tight across bone, every inch of your back vulnerable and open like a parchment waiting for ink, or in this case, something much worse. The executioner doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His presence is enough. Broad, deliberate movements, rawhide in hand. Maybe he soaks it in water first, maybe salt. Sometimes even vinegar or sand to make the lashes bite deeper, burrow into skin, and stay there. The first strike is more than pain, it's a violation. Not just of flesh, but of pride. The crack of the whip echoes off stone walls. Then silence. Then the burn. The line feels like it's been etched with fire. You gasp, a sound that's more animal than human, but you're not allowed to fall. The ropes hold you upright, and so does your own shame. Then comes the second lash, and the third, each one building on the last, peeling away the idea that this might be survivable with dignity intact. They call it moderate correction. That's the official term, which means it won't kill you. Probably. The number of lashes varies. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes 20. Sometimes no one bothers to count. The punishment is tailored not to fit the crime, but to match the mood of the official in charge, or the crowd, because there's always a crowd. They watch from the edgesmen, women, even children, some with curiosity, some with satisfaction, some pretending not to look, but they do. They always do. Public punishment is half about deterrence, half about theater, and your center stage, your body, the script, the whip, the punctuation. By the 5th lash, your back is bleeding. By the 10th, it's no longer clear where skin ends and torn muscle begins. Each strike draws a fresh line, crossing old wounds, cutting deeper. The rawhide hisses through the air like a snake with purpose, and it always finds you, no matter how you flinch, no matter how you brace. Eventually, your legs give out. Your body goes limp, but the ropes keep you upright, dangling like meat from a butcher's hook. The crowd gets quieter. The strikes keep coming. You stop counting. You stop breathing evenly. Pain becomes a fog thick, hot, endless. Then, just like that, it ends. The whip is lowered. The silence is louder than the crack that came before. Someone cuts the ropes. You fall. You don't remember hitting the ground. They pour water over your back, not to clean you, to make you scream one last time. And then you're dragged away bloodied, broken, twitching with each movement. The welts will stay for weeks. The scars much longer. Some never fade. Some settle into the nervous system and revisit you in your sleep. They say it's discipline, a path to correction. But you know better. It's a warning, and your body has become the sign. They fasten the collar around your neck with careful, deliberate hands. Not tight enough to suffocate. That would be too swift, too merciful. The iron collar isn't designed to kill at least. Not immediately. It's designed to remind you of its presence with every moment, every movement, every involuntary twitch of the throat. It's not a noose. It's a sentence made of metal. You feel its weight first. Cold iron pressing against your skin, not heavy enough to crush, but enough to make your head feel just a little heavier. Your spine a little more aware of the load it carries. There's no cushion, no room to adjust. It hugs your neck like a lover with a blade. The inside edge is not smooth. It's lined with ridges, thorns, or blunt teeth depending on who forged it. Each ridge angled inward, shallow enough to spare you immediately, sharp enough to make you regret every breath. You don't scream when it's locked. Screaming moves the throat. Screaming makes it worse. So you hold still, lips trembling, jaw clenched, nostrils flaring with the effort of silent panic. You try to breathe shallowly, smoothly, like it's a ritual, but it's no use. The moment you swallow reflexively, naturally, the iron kisses your skin. A burn, a bite, a quiet threat. And you realize this is the new reality. Your body is your enemy. They leave you alone. There's no need for guards. You're your own warden now. Every second is a negotiation. Every swallow, every word you dare to form, costs you something. You start to catalog the trigger: saliva, hunger, even fear. All of it builds in the throat, and eventually you must swallow. And when you do, the collar reminds you. Just a light touch at first, a scratch. Then the scratch becomes rawness, then bleeding, then scabbing over, then tearing open again. You stop talking, not because you're told to, but because it's safer. You answer questions with nods, when you can. But even nodding makes the iron shift, dig, so you become still, silent, expressionless. The pain shapes you into its own image. After a day, your neck is blistered. After 2, it's cracked, caked with blood and pus, where metal has worn flesh down to the tender, trembling meat beneath. You can't rest. You can't sleep sitting up, and if you lie down, the collar shifts. It always shifts. You're too afraid to sleep deeply anyway. You wake often, startled, your throat flexen gan, the collar welcomes you back with pain. Water is a curse. Food is worse. You try to sip carefully, let liquid pass down with gravity alone, but that never works. Your body betrays you with every gulp, every chew. You fantasize about death not because you seek it, but because it would at least be still, silent, final. No one flinches when they see the collar. They've seen it before. On others? On the ones who survived, or didn't. You wonder how long you'll wear it. Until you confess? Until someone forgets you're still alive? Until your neck just gives in, inch by inch, and the collar closes like a trap at last? The iron collar doesn't ask for your voice. It demands your stillness. And with every passing hour, you give it more of yourself, until all that remains is the quiet, shaking outline of a man too afraid to swallow. They bring you to the iron frame with a quiet efficiency that makes it worse. No shouting, no threats. Just the rattle of metal, the scrape of boots on stone, and the growing realization that you're about to be compressed like an object, not punished like a man. You've heard of this device by name, the scavenger's daughter, though there's nothing maternal about it. It's not meant to nurture. It's meant to contain, to crush, to break. The frame opens like a steel jaw. It's hinged in the middle, 2 iron bands forming a triangle when closed. One section holds the legs, another the chest, and the last locks over the head. Your limbs are forced upward, bent at unnatural angles. Knees are pulled tightly to your chest. Your back curved forward until your spine feels like it might snap under the pressure. Then your neck is pushed downward, your skull slowly guided until it nearly touches your knees. You're folded, not seated, not crouched folded, like a letter being sealed in its envelope. Then they lock it. There's no movement now, none. You are trapped in a cage of your own limbs. Your lungs fight for space inside your compressed torso. Breathing becomes an effort, not a reflex. Every inhale stabs into your ribs. Every exhale feels like surrender. Blood struggles to circulate. Limbs tingle, then throb, then go numb. Your joints cry out, but the iron doesn't care. It holds you firm. It was built to. The pain doesn't come all at once. That would almost be merciful. Instead, it blooms. First in the thighs, then the hips, the lower back, the neck. Pressure builds behind your eyes. Your heart pounds erratically, trying to adjust to a body that's no longer its own. You begin to sweat. The moisture pools against cold metal. You try not to move, but you can't anyway. Even twitching sends spikes of agony ricocheting through your spine. You realize quickly this isn't about tearing you apart. It's about folding you in until you collapse under your own weight. It's not destruction, it's compression. A slow implosion of everything human inside you. The guards sometimes watch. Sometimes they turn away. There's not much to see. No flailing, no screaming. Just a man coming undone in silence. That's the cruelty of it, the quietness. The restraint. You don't look like someone being tortured. You look like someone disappearing into themselves. Time distorts. You lose track of whether it's been minutes or hours. Your mind starts to fray at the edges. You hallucinate the feeling of freedom, arms stretching, back straightening, lungs full of air. But it's a lie. You're still here, still curled into this grotesque knot. You try to focus on anything else, a memory, a prayer, even the name of your mother, but the pain drowns it all. Your thoughts bend just like your body until you're not sure what hurts more, your legs or your sense of self. And then something gives. Sometimes it's the body ribs cracking, shoulders dislocating, tendons snapping in protest. Sometimes it's the mind, a scream that never makes it past your clenched throat. A quiet, inward crumbling. The Scavenger's Daughter was designed for efficiency. It requires no flame, no blood, no noise, just pressure, just time. Just the brutal lesson that a human can only be bent so far before something must break. They start with your leg, not your voice, not your mind, your leg. It's chosen because it can't escape, because it won't kill you when it breaks, and because it will remind you with every step for the rest of your life, if you're lucky enough to walk again. The device looks innocent enough at first. A long metal sleeve, hinged on one side, open and waiting like the jaws of something ancient. This is the iron boot, and once your leg is inside, the rest of you becomes irrelevant. They sit you down, bind your arms behind your back, and force your shin into the boot. The fit is tight, purposefully so that there's no room for movement, no comfort, no chance to shift the bone away from what's coming. The cold iron bites into your skin as they close the device around your lower leg and lock it shut with rusted pins. You can feel the rigid metal pressing against the contour of your calf, the narrowness of the space already squeezing flesh and muscle tight against bone. Then come the wedge-small, triangular pieces of wood or metal. Each one is slid carefully between the iron and your leg, along the sides of the boot or beneath the shin. They rest gently at first, like pebbles placed in a shoe. But their peace is temporary. One of the torturers picks up a mallet, simple, wooden, heavy. The room goes quiet, as if holding its breath. The first strike comes suddenly. The wedge is hammered in with a single blow. It forces itself into the gap, pressing the iron boot tighter, driving pressure directly into your leg. You don't scream right away. Your mind hasn't caught up yet. But your body does, your thigh jerks, your foot spasms, your hands claw at the air behind your back. Then the pain hits, a white-hot spear surging up from your shin into your brain, and the scream follows whether you want it to or not. Another wedge, another hammer strike. The pressure increases. Now the pain is constant, unrelenting. It's not just your legits in your bones, radiating outward, swallowing your entire lower body in a firestorm of pressure. The boot holds everything in place. It doesn't give, doesn't shift. All the energy of every blow goes straight into you. With each strike, the wedge drives deeper. The space inside the boot shrinks. Your leg has nowhere to go. The bone bends. Then it resists. Then, finally, it cracks. Not like a twig snapping in the forest, more like a tree splitting from the inside, slow, wet, sickening. You feel it more than hear it. The sound comes through your teeth, your spine, your soul, and they keep going. Not to kill, just to shatter. To take the clean, straight column of your tibia and turn it into gravel. Bits of bone grind against metal. Blood seeps through seams in the iron. You can't feel your foot anymore. But that doesn't mean the pain has stopped. It simply means your nerves have been overwhelmed. Sometimes they pause to ask questions. You nod frantically. Say yes to anything. But it doesn't matter. The boot is already part of you. It has taken your leg and made it its own. Every wedge is a signature. Every crack, a verdict. When they finally open it, they do so slowly. Your leg doesn't move. It spills out, limp and misshapen, like meat from a crushed husk. The skin is torn, the muscle shredded, the bone gone at least, in the way it once was. You may live, but not as you were. The iron boot doesn't take your life. It takes your movement, your independence, your memory of what walking used to feel like. It leaves you with silence, stillness, and a leg that remembers everything. They don't rush. Strappado isn't about spectacle. It's about precision. The room is dim, cavernous, quiet except for the creak of rope and the faint shuffle of boots. You're led beneath the pulley, your arms already bound tightly behind your back at the wristlebows nearly touching, shoulders already protesting. The rope loops around your wrists, then snakes upward, disappearing into the shadows above. You glance up. There's no mercy waiting up there, just a hook, a beam, and gravity. They hoist you slowly at first. Your arms are pulled back and upward behind you, twisting your shoulders into unnatural angles. It doesn't take long before your feet leave the ground, toes brushing stone, then nothing. You hang there, suspended entirely by the rope digging into your wrists. Your shoulders scream. Not from burning pain, not yet, but from pressure. Pressure in the joints, in the tendons, in the sockets now stretching beyond their design. Then they let you drop. Not far, just enough. The fall is sudden, a heartbeat of air. Then the rope jerks taut, halting your descent. Your body whips downward, but your arms are yanked skyward. There's a sound wet, cracking, internal. Something unhinges in your shoulders. The pain isn't sharp. It's enormous. A tidal wave of fire surging out from the points where your arms used to fit into your frame. Your body twists in the air, spasming like a marionette with snapped strings. You try to scream, but all that comes out is a strangled gasp, your breath stolen by the shock. That was the first drop. They wait. Always. Not out of patience, but to let the dislocation settle. To let your mind wrap itself around this new shape of agony. You hang limply, arms useless, muscles torn, nerves exposed like frayed wires. Blood begins to pool in your hands, now turning a pale blue. You can't feel your fingers. You wonder if you ever will again. Then they pull you back up. It's not a full hoist this time. Just enough to tense the rope. Just enough for you to know it's coming again. The second drop comes faster. Your joints already ruined. The strain tears into muscle and connective tissue. There's less sound this time. More of a thud. You're past screaming now. Your body jerks, then hangs motionless. Sweat pours off you. Your head droops. You can't lift it. You can't lift anything. They might drop you a third time, or a fourth. It depends on how much you're worth, how badly they want your confession or your silence. You don't pass out. That's part of the design. The pain is sharp enough to keep you conscious, but deep enough to make you wish otherwise. You think of things that might make it stop. Names, lies, anything. But thinking requires focus, and all your focus is burning in your shoulders, where your arms now hang at the wrong angle, like wings bent backward. Eventually, they lower you to the floor. You don't stand. You can't. Your arms dangle behind you like ropes of meat, nerves screaming with every twitch. The joints no longer resemble joints. They've become cavities, sockets emptied by force, swinging in their own blood. Strappado doesn't kill. It just takes your upper body and rewrites it forever. You'll never reach for something again without remembering this, without hearing the snap, the drop, the silence that followed. And somewhere above, the rope still sways. They call it punishment, but it feels more like a parade of disgrace. No cells, no chains, no blood spilled. Just a wooden barrel with a hole cut in the top and 2 slits at the sides, wide enough for your arms to poke through like useless wings. It's called the drunkard's cloak, a name that almost sounds playful, until they force it over your head and the weight of it crashes down onto your shoulders like the judgment of the entire town. You've been caught drunk in public. Maybe it was your first time. Maybe it was your 5th. It doesn't matter. There are no second chances when morality becomes spectacle. The constables make sure the fit is tight, the rim of the barrel scraping your collarbones and pressing into the tops of your arms. The wood is old, rough, splintered from years of use. It stinks of sweat, piss, old ale, and the humiliation of others who stood here before you. Then they march you into the square. You can't move quickly. The barrel's weight shifts with every step, swaying and knocking against your legs, threatening to topple you if you try to walk too fast. So you shuffle, slowly. Each step another invitation for the crowd to gather, to point, to laugh. And they do. They always do. Children chase you, tossing pebbles and bits of bread. Women clutch their chests in mock shock, giggling behind their fingers. The men are worse, mocking you in loud voices, shouting slurred jokes as if performing your crime again for you. Someone offers you another drink just to watch you try and grab it with arms that can barely move. You're not beaten, you're not bleeding, but you are exposed. Your face burns, not from heat, but from shame. Sweat pours down your body, trapped inside the barrel, soaking into your clothes. There's no airflow, no escape. Your skin begins to itch. You smell your self-alcohol still leaking from your pores, mixing with the stale reek of the wooden prison around you. Your legs begin to cramp. You can't sit. You can't rest. The cloak forces you to stand, locked upright in your own disgrace. Time crawls. You don't know how long they'll make you stay, an hour, 2, a whole day. It's never clear. The punishment isn't measured by the sun, but by satisfaction. When the crowds had their fill, when the laughter dies down. Sometimes they add more to the humiliation. Hang signs around your neck. Drunkard, fool, beast. Sometimes they throw refuse, rotten cabbage, a cracked egg. One woman spits into the top of the barrel, and the warm glob lands on your shoulder, slides down your back. You want to disappear, to be invisible, but the cloak ensures you're seen, ensures you're the center of every sneer, every joke, every reminder that you stepped out of line, that you failed to hold yourself in the way society demands, that your weakness is entertainment. Eventually, they let you go. The barrel is lifted off. Your limbs are weak, numb, your clothes soaked through. You don't look anyone in the eye as you walk away. You can't. Your back is straight, but your spirit is curled in on itself. No scars, no broken bones, just a silence that follows you wherever you goon, filled with echoes of laughter that will never quite fade. They call it justice. You, strapped to a wooden chair at the end of a long beam, might call it something else. The ducking stool is as much theater as it is punishment. A stage for the townsfolk, a prop for the court, a sentence dressed in splinters and soaked in river mud. You're not being burned or broken, not yet. You're being lowered, gently at first, into cold water again and again until your lungs fill with silence. They drag you from your cell to the edge of the river or pond or bog anywhere, with enough depth to swallow a person, but shallow enough to retrieve one. There's already a crowd waiting. Men, women, children, perched on fences and stones, ready for their entertainment. Laughter floats on the breeze. Somewhere, someone sells pies. This isn't just punishment. It's public ritual. It's a warning wrapped in humiliation. The stool itself is simple, a rough wooden chair with straps for wrists and ankles. It's attached to the end of a long timber beam, mounted on a pivot so it can be raised and lowered like the arm of a scale. The scale is supposed to weigh guilt, but today it only measures breath, yours. They bind you tightly. There's no escape. You're seated upright, back pressed against cold wood, the ropes cutting into your skin as you squirm. Then the beam creaks, and the stool begins to swing outward over the water. For a moment, you're suspended, staring down into the murky surface, where ripples catch the light like mocking hands. Then they lower you. The first submersion is always a shock. The cold clamps around your body like iron. It grabs your lungs, your throat, your heart. The water seeps into your clothes, your ears, your nose. You try not to inhale. You clamp your mouth shut. But panic comes fast. The human body doesn't do well when denied air. It doesn't know how to wait. Then, just before you break, they pull you back up. You sputter, cough, retch river water onto your lap. The crowd cheers. You're given no moment to rest, no time to think. You're asked again, are you a witch, a liar, a nag? The questions don't need answers, they're formalities. You're guilty the moment they sat you in the chair. You just haven't admitted it yet. Back down you go. The water is colder the second time. Your muscles tighten. Your chest aches. This time, the panic starts sooner. You thrash as much as the restraints allow. Every second under is an eternity carved out of ice. Then again, up, gasp, cough, tremble. They wait until you recover enough to understand that it's not over. Again, the cycle repeats. Each dunk shorter than the last, but somehow worse. Your body is weakening. Your vision blurs. Your teeth chatter. There's no violence here, no whip or flame butt. That's what makes it so effective. You're not being harmed, they'll say. Just corrected, just cleansed, just purified by water. Eventually, your mind starts to slip. You forget why you're here. You forget your name. You forget what they want from you. You only know the water, the weight, the terrible stillness between each breath. You either confess or you drown. And even if you do confess, they might dunk you one more time just to make sure. When they pull you out for the last time, you're limp, shivering, barely conscious. You've been taught the lesson not with flame or blade, but with something colder, slower, more suffocating. You survived the ducking stool, but the river remembers, and so do you. They don't ask you to kneel. They force you. 2 guards, rough hands on your shoulders, press you down until your knees hit the stone. You're trembling not from cold, but from what you see heating in the brazier nearby. A piece of iron, forged not into a weapon, but into a letter. A single letter, T or H or F. It doesn't matter which one. All of them mean the same thing. You belong to your sin now. Branding isn't fast. It's not like a sword strike or a lash that comes and goes in a moment. Branding is patient. It's theatrical. The crowd needs time to understand what's about to happen, and you need time to dread it. The executioner, if he can be called that, takes his time with the iron, turning it slowly in the coals, watching it shift from black to red to orange until it glows like the sun. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The hiss will speak for him. They strip your shirt. Sometimes they tie you. Sometimes they don't bother me now. Most people have learned not to move. You don't want to know what happens if you move. The branding must be clean, or they'll simply reheat the iron and try again and again until the mark is perfect, until your flesh becomes a page and the letter is engraved into it like script on parchment. The location depends on the crime and the message. A thief might be branded on the hand, where everyone can see it as he reaches for bread. A fornicator on the thigh, for more private shame. A heretic, almost always on the forehead, just above the brow, so the world never forgets what you believed. They press the brand in all at once. No testing, no warning, one solid motion. The pain is impossible to describe. Not just Heathia would be mercy. This is violation. The sizzle of flesh. The sudden, full-body shock of your skin being rewritten. Your nerves light up like dry thatch under a torch. You scream. You don't think you will, but you do. Everyone does. It's not the volume of the scream that matters, it's the pitch. It's the sound of something leaving you. Dignity, maybe, or defiance. When they pull the brand away, the pain doesn't stop. It changes, from burning to throbbing, from shock to ache. Your skin bubbles. Blisters rise instantly. The letter is there, raised, angry, unmistakable. They might coat it in vinegar or oil, not to soothe you, but to ensure it sets right. A poorly formed mark might need to be corrected later. The real punishment begins after. Because branding isn't about the pain. Not really. It's about what comes next. You'll carry that letter for the rest of your life. Through markets, through churches, through silence. Children will stare. Vendors will refuse you. Employers will turn you away. Strangers will ask questions you don't want to answer. You will be known by a single letter. One decision, one accusation, boiled down into an alphabet of shame. THF. There are more. The alphabet of punishment is long and flexible. But your name? That's gone. Replaced. Melted away in the heat. They bring out the cauldron before they bring out you. It's already bubbling. Maybe oil, maybe water, maybe something thicker, darker, used many times before. No one tells you which it is. Maybe they don't even care. The point isn't the liquid. It's the transformation. The way flesh becomes pulp. The way skin blisters and peels like overripe fruit. The way pain silences even the loudest mouths. This isn't a backroom punishment. This is public. A performance. The platform is raised so everyone can see. The pot is wide, blackened from years of use, mounted over a roaring fire that licks at the sides like a hungry beast. You are the main event. The crowd has gathered, some silent, some giddy, some pretending they don't want to be here. But they stay. They always stay. Your clothes are torn off. The air hits your skin like a warning. You don't struggle. Maybe your legs won't let you. Maybe you already know there's nowhere to go. You glance at the pot. The surface ripples. A thick scent fills your nostrils, fat, metal, something organic, something that shouldn't be cooking. The sentence is read aloud. Theft, blasphemy, witchcraft. Or maybe you crossed the wrong noble. The reasons don't matter. Boiling is its own justification. It's slow, thorough, theatrical. Death doesn't come as a blade. It comes as a temperature, rising. They bind your hands, tie your ankles. Sometimes you're lowered with care, by a chain and pulley. Other times they just drop you in. Feet first. Always feet first. So you last longer. The first moment of contact is deceptive. You expect pain, but your nerves freeze. Then the burn. An all-consuming, clawing agony that wraps around your legs like fire given form. Your skin reacts, first bubbling, splitting, sliding off in sheets. Then the muscle begins to cook, shrinking and tightening, pulling itself away from the bone like meat on a spit. You scream. Everyone does. It echoes off stone and wood. It rises over the flames and into the lungs of the crowd. Some turn away, others step closer. They don't stop at the knees. They lower you slowly, inch by inch. Your thighs, your hips. The water climbs like a tide of pain. The smell gets worse: burned hair, cooked fat, scorched blood. It clings to your nose, your eyes, your mouth. You try to lift yourself, but your strength left minutes ago. The ropes hold you still, and the liquid rises. By the time it reaches your torso, you're shaking uncontrollably. Your skin is falling off in ribbons. You can't feel your legs anymore. Only the deep, bone-deep agony of heat invading organs not meant to know touch. Your body begins to convulse. Your voice is gone. You're not screaming now, just gasping, twitching, breaking apart from the inside. Some boilings lasted hours. That was the point. to give the audience their fill, to show the strength of divine judgment. Some victims were still alive when the liquid reached their shoulders, their necks, some even when it covered their mouths. You won't know the moment you die. Pain gives way to nothing. And even then, your body doesn't stop moving. It writhes in place like it still remembers what it once was. When it's over, they pull you out or what's left. Skin sloughs off. Eyes are white. You're more pulp than person. But the message is clear, steaming for all to see. You were boiled, and everyone watched. ChatGPT. It looks almost regal at first. Glancetall, upright, human-shaped. A great iron sarcophagus standing silently against the wall, its face sculpted into that of a serene woman. The Iron Maiden. Not a weapon, not a tool, but a monument to pain disguised as art. If you didn't know what it was, you might think it belonged in a cathedral, not a dungeon. But the closer you get, the more you see the details. The hinge marks, the thin seam down the middle, and just behind that, hidden until the doors open, rows of spikes. Long, rusted, precise. They open it slowly. The sound of scraping hinges fills the room, metal groaning like it's waking from sleep. Inside, the spikes shine dully in the torchlight. They're not arranged haphazardly. This was careful work. The spikes are spaced with purpose, measured, adjusted, tested not to kill you immediately, but to pierce you just enough to keep you alive. No heart, no lungs, no throat. Just the soft meat of your abdomen, your thighs, your shoulders. Flesh wounds, but many. You're stripped. Cold air licks across your skin. They don't restrain you much. There's nowhere to run. You're forced to step forward into the open coffin. It fits your body perfectly. Another terrifying detail. The spikes hover just millimeters from your skin, already threatening without touching. You can smell the rust. You can see, at the base, dried blood black, flaking, left from someone else who stood here before you. Then the door begins to close. It isn't slammed shut. That would be too fast, too clean. No, it closes slowly, painfully slowly, as if the maiden herself is embracing you with iron arms. The first spike kisses your side. Another brushes your thigh. Then one presses against your rib cage. You don't know which will puncture first. You just know they will. As the pressure increases, the spikes begin to break the skin. It's not a stab, it's a puncture, a push, a slide of rusted iron through tissue. One enters your abdomen, another scrapes along your collarbone, a third drives gently into your lower back. The pain is sharp but deliberate. Your breath catches, but you don't die. That's the point. The Iron Maiden is a lesson in stillness. You're impaled at half a dozen points, and yet you must not move. Because if you shift even slightly, those careful gaps around your vital organs may vanish. One wrong breath could drive a spike into your lung. A tremble might push one up beneath your jaw. Inside, it's dark, hot, close. Your blood begins to pool, seeping slowly from the punctures, trickling down your body. The air smells of metal and fear. Every heartbeat feels exaggerated, enormous, like your chest might explode from the pressure. Time slips away. You don't know if you've been in there for minutes or hours. Your legs cramp. Your mind begins to fragment. The pain dulls, not because it fades, but because your nerves are too overwhelmed to scream anymore. Eventually, the door opens again slowly, carefully. If they want you alive, they'll do it gently. If they don't, they won't. Either way, your body peels away from the spikes, some still buried in flesh, others pulling free with a sucking sound. Blood pours freely now. You might survive, but you won't be whole. The Iron Maiden doesn't kill swiftly. It doesn't roar or rage. It whispers. It waits. And when it embraces you, it does so with the patience of someone who already knows you're hers. They bring you to it bound and barefoot, your feet scraping against stone as the guards drag you forward. At first glance, it looks like a statue, majestic, almost beautiful. A massive bronze bull, gleaming in the torchlight, its nostrils flared, its mouth slightly open. It stands tall on 4 thick legs, polished and cold, with flanks smooth as sculpture. You could mistake it for art, some symbol of ancient power, until you notice the seam along its belly, until you see the small door built into its side, hinged and blackened around the edges. And then you understand, this is no statue. It's an oven, and you are the fuel. The inventor, they say, was proud of it, said it turned punishment into poetry, claimed your suffering could be converted into something noble music, that the screams of a dying man would echo through the bull's hollow pipes and emerge from its mouth not as agony, but as song, a melody for kings, a lullaby for tyrants. They open the belly and gesture for you to climb in. You resist. Of course you do. But the blows come quickly, knees to ribs, fists to the back of your neck, until you stumble forward and fall against the edge of the opening. The metal is warm already. Not enough to burn, not yet. Just enough to remind you what it will become. Inside, the chamber is just large enough to fit a man curled on hands and knees. You're not meant to stand or stretch or even shift. You're meant to bake. They force you in. Your skin scrapes along the bronze. Every breath echoes back at you, shallow and panicked. Then, the door slams shut, plunging you into darkness. You hear the latch slide into place. Outside, men begin to work. Wood piled beneath the bowl, oil poured carefully, a torch touched to the base. Then the fire begins. At first, it's distant, a dull warmth that creeps beneath your hands, your feet. You sweat, you pray, but the heat rises quickly, faster than your mind can keep up with. Your palms begin to blister, your knees sting, the air grows thin and sharp each inhale singes your lungs. You try to move, but there's nowhere to go. You're pressed against metal on every side, and it's getting hotter by the second. The bronze begins to glow. Outside, they gather around the bull, waiting, listening. The pipes are carved through the bull's head, through its mouth, and nostrils crafted with such care that even your screams are twisted, transformed. When you open your mouth and scream, it's not a man they hear. It's a bull, bellowing, crying, roaring with rage or despair. It hardly matters. The sound is beautiful to them. Inside, your skin peels, your muscles shrink and twitch, your eyes boil. You scream again, but even you can't hear it anymore. The heat is everywhere. You are no longer flesh. You are fire trapped in a cage of metal. Every breath is agony. Every scream is art. Eventually, you stop moving, but the music goes on. The air trapped inside, carrying your final gasps through the pipes. One last aria before silence. When they open the bowl, hours later, they won't find a man. They'll find remains fused to the bronze, charred, curled, silent at last. The brazen bull doesn't kill you quickly. It plays you like an instrument until there's nothing left to sing. They don't take your life right away. That would be wasteful. They take your skin instead. You're tied upright, arms stretched above your head, wrists bound so tightly the circulation fades. Your legs are shackled at the ankles, spread just enough to keep you exposed, unable to collapse. There's no crowd today. This isn't spectacle. This is for someone special. Someone who wants the truth and believes pain will dig it out of you like a worm from a rotten apple. You're not blindfolded. They want you to watch. You see the knife. It's not serrated, not clumsy. It's delicate. A sliver of steel honed to a surgeon's precision. This isn't hacking or chopping. This is an art form. The confessor, your torturer, your tailor of torment, takes his time. He places the blade on your chest like he's about to open a letter. The first cut is shallow, barely a whisper across your skin. A line drawn slowly from shoulder to shoulder, just beneath the collarbones. Then down the center of your torso. It doesn't bleed much, not yet. The skin is eased back gently, with the blade and with gloved hands, peeling in slow strips, not torn, peeled, as if removing a wet shirt that clings too tightly. You feel everything. The nerves in your skin scream first, raw and electric, but what comes next is worse, the exposure. The sensation of air on flesh that was never meant to feel air. Wind becomes a blade. Cold becomes fire. Every breath becomes a curse. Your own body recoils from itself, but you're held in place, helpless to do anything but endure. The confessor doesn't rush. He speaks to you as he works soft questions. False kindness, promises of mercy if you just answer. But you know better. You could give him names, places, secrets. He would flay you anyway, because it's not about the truth. It's about process. He moves to your arms next. He cuts in spirals, turning your skin into ribbons. Sometimes he pauses to wipe the blade. Sometimes he leans in close to examine a vein, a twitch, a bead of sweat that escapes down your temple. You've stopped begging. Your throat is hoarse. Your eyes are wild, not from defiance, but from pain your mind can't process. Blood begins to pool at your feet. It drips steadily now, not from deep cuts, but from 1,000 tiny ones. The room smells like metal and meat. Your vision blurs. You lose track of how much of you has been removed. You don't know what you look like anymore. You're not a man. You're a figurate, twitching, glistening, still alive, still conscious. He might stop after your torso, or he might continue legs, back, scalp. The face is usually last. It requires the most care. They say the skin of the face is so thin it comes off like parchment, if done properly, and he always does it properly. By the time he's done, you're barely breathing. A quivering mess of muscle and veins, glistening like something born wrong. He leans in, just once, and asks again, "Do you confess?" But there's nothing left to confess, nothing left to be. Flaying isn't about extracting truth. It's about removing identity strip by strip, inch by inch, until all that remains is the raw truth of suffering. Skinless, wordless, and completely, helplessly human. They begin by hanging you upside down, ankles bound tight with thick rope, hoisted slowly into the air until your head dangles just a few feet above the ground. Your hands are tied behind your back, but it doesn't matter, you wouldn't be able to stop them anyway. The blood starts pooling in your skull within seconds, pounding behind your eyes, making your vision throb and your ears ring. Everything feels swollen, heavy, exposed. You're not entirely sure what's happening at first. The torchlight flickers, shadows dance across the stone walls, and you can barely breathe through the pressure building in your chest and face. Then you see it. The saw, a 2-man frame saw, long and brutal, with coarse teeth meant for lumber, not flesh. But today, you are the wood. They don't aim for your neck. That would be too quick, too merciful. They place the saw between your legs. And then they begin. The first pull of the saw is slow, controlled. They have no need to rush. They start at the groin, where skin, fat, and soft tissue part easily. You feel everything. The saw moves back and forth like it's carving a log. Only this log screams. Your nerves light up with a brightness that eclipses thought. It isn't pain anymore, it's fire, pure and total. It wraps around your spine and shudders through your teeth. Your body tries to convulse, to flail, to pull away, but you're hung too tightly. You twitch and swing slightly with each jerk of the blade, but there's nowhere to run. The blood pours freely, gravity doing its work. It should be your salvation. You should bleed out quickly. But the irony is this: being hung upside down keeps you alive longer. The blood that should drain away stays in your brain, feeding your consciousness, ensuring you remain aware as the saw progresses upward. They hit bone. That's when things slow down. The sound changes. No longer the soft rip of tissue, but the harsh grating of steel on pelvis. The sawbucks, shifts, requires more force. They adjust their grip, reposition themselves, and begin again more forcefully this time. Every pass now sends vibrations through your skeleton. You feel your pelvis begin to split. A crunch, a shift. Then the unmistakable give of your body being divided. You're still conscious. Your screams are hoarse now, your voice more gargle than word. Blood spills from your mouth, your nose, your eyes. The pressure in your head is unbearable. Your vision flashes white and red, but you do not pass out. Not yet. The body is stubborn. The brain clings to awareness even as the body is torn apart. That's the genius of the method, how long it keeps you here, watching your own death come from between your legs, rising like a slow-burning fire. By the time they reach your abdomen, the pain is less sharp, more distant. Shock sets in. You feel cold, trembling. The world narrows to a pinpoint, and yet somehow you're still here. Eventually, your body gives out. Whether from blood loss or broken organs, your heart falters. Your eyes go dull. And still the saw moves, finishing what it started, long after your mind has slipped into silence. Sawing in half isn't just about death. It's about duration. It's about making sure you're awake for every unbearable inch until there's nothing left to feel, only halves. They lay the wheel on the ground, first a large wooden cartwheel, stripped of its outer rim, spokes thick enough to support a body, and just wide enough to splay a human being across. It doesn't look like an execution device at first. It looks like part of a cart, but you know what it is. Everyone does. The Catherine wheel. St. Catherine's name, but no saint will help you now. They drag you forward and force you onto the wheel. You're not tied gently. Your wrists and ankles are pulled outward until you're spread in an X. Your limbs bound to the spokes with thick rope. You can't move. You can barely breathe. Your back is pressed against the cold, hard wood. Your arms and legs stretched until the joints ache and your muscles cramp. There's no mercy in the positioning. It's deliberate, anatomical. They want your bones perfectly aligned for what comes next. Then comes the executioner. He doesn't rush. He carries an iron bar, thick, heavy, stained dark at the ends. It's not sharp. It doesn't need to be. The tool isn't for cutting. It's for smashing, crushing, breaking you in the most fundamental way. He starts with the legs. The first blow lands just below your knee. You hear the bone shatter before you feel it. A deep, wet crack, like a tree branch snapping in a storm. Then the pain arrives. Hot, total. Your vision flares white as your body tries to recoil, but the ropes keep you still. You scream. Everyone does. The next blow is higher mid-thigh. Another break. Another scream. Then the other leg. Then the arms. They work methodically, breaking each major bone in your limbs one by one. Not enough to kill. Not yet. Just enough to turn your body into a limp, twisted mass of flesh and splinters. Your limbs no longer function. They dangle uselessly across the spokes, bent at angles that defy nature. The pain doesn't throb, it screams. You can feel your heartbeat in every fracture. And you're still alive. That's the design. If they follow the traditional form, they'll weave your broken limbs through the spokes next. Tuck your arms and legs in and around like the spokes of a basket. Your twisted body threaded into the wood so that you can't fall free. Your ribs shift with every breath, one or two already cracked from the impact. Blood pools beneath you. Flies begin to gather. They hoist the wheel upright, mount it on a pole so the town can see. You're displayed, now splayed and broken, too shattered to move, too alive to die. The sun beats down. The wind dries the blood on your skin. Birds begin to circle. Sometimes they come quickly. Sometimes they wait for the stillness. But they come. You don't last long like this. Maybe a day. Maybe two. If you're lucky, someone comes with a mercy blow to the chest, to the throat, to the head. But often they don't. The wheel is meant to be slow, meant to be seen. And long after your body gives out, the wheel remains. A symbol, a warning, the twisted ruin of a man who once walked upright, now shattered and silent, turning slowly in the wind. They bring the cage first. Small, square, iron-barred, barely large enough to hold 2 or 3 rats. Inside, the animals scurry nervously, their claws scraping the metal floor, pink tails curling in the air like question marks. They're not starved, not yet, but they're hungry. That's part of the process. Not just the method, but the mood, the build-up. Your eyes lock with theirs. You see panic, instinct, and something else, something primitive, deep and gnawing. Survival. They strap you down flat on a wooden table. Leather cords around the ankles, around the wrists, tight. You can't move. Your shirt is ripped open, your stomach exposed to the cold air and the indifferent eyes of your captors. You can hear the rats squealing softly, scratching at their cage walls. The scent of fur and filth already reaches you. Then they place the cage on your abdomen. It rests directly over your midsection, heavy, pressing the rats' bodies close to your bare skin. You flinch, but it's not the touch of claws you should fear. It's the heat. Someone places a brazier, a small, shallow iron pan filled with glowing coals on top of the cage. It doesn't take long. The metal heats fast. The rats feel it. They panic immediately, scrambling, screaming. The cage rocks back and forth on your body as the animals slam against the sides, seeking any escape. But there's only one way out. Down. You feel the first bite a few seconds later. It's not precise. It's not neat. The rat doesn't try to kill you, it tries to escape. Claws tear at your skin, scrabbling, scraping. Then teeth. Blunt, rodent teeth, snapping at the flesh of your stomach. The pain is instant and chaotic. There's no rhythm to it, no order. One rat claws at your hip, while another digs just below your ribs. They're not following anatomy, they're following heat. The fire above grows hotter. The cage begins to glow faintly red. The rats go mad. Blood pours from your midsection as they rip and gnaw and claw. You scream not because of a single wound, but because of the unpredictability, the pure animal violence that now lives on your body. You are no longer human in their eyes. You are exit. You are dirt. You are tunnel. They dig. They burrow into your belly, teeth pulling skin and fat aside, claws digging through muscle. One reaches your intestines. Another tries to wedge itself between your ribs. Your body spasms against the table, but the straps hold. You try to plead, but all that comes out is blood-tinged breath. There's no stopping them now. The fire above won't be removed until the rats are gone, until they've chewed their way out of the bottom of the cage, through your body, and down onto the floor below. By then, you'll be a ruin. A hollowed-out husk of meat and blood. If you're lucky, you'll die of shock. If not, you'll stay conscious long enough to feel the moment one of them breaks through your back and drops to the floor with a wet slap. Rat torture isn't just pain. It's dehumanization complete and total. You're not being punished. You're being hollowed, excavated, reduced to a passage, a thing. And when it's over, all that remains is the stench, the shredded wreck of a torso, and the faint sound of tiny claws echoing in the silence. They don't need to hurt you anymore. They don't shout. They don't strike. They simply lower the lid. You're already in the box wooden, narrow, just wide enough for your shoulders and long enough for your feet to press against the far wall. There's no lining, no cloth, just splintered planks, raw and unfinished. You feel every imperfection in the grain beneath your back, and above you, the inside of the lid stares down like the sky after a storm. Blank, close, indifferent. The air smells of earth and pine resin, but it won't for long. No one explains the punishment. They don't need to. You know, burial alive is the sentence they keep for those who never break, or who break too late. The silent ones, the defiant, the forgotten. They gave you chances, confess, name names, plead for forgiveness, but you didn't. Or you did, and they didn't care. Either way, the box is here now. You hear the ropes creak as they lower it. Not quickly, slowly. The descent is worse than any fall. You hear soil shifting, rocks tumbling against wood. The sound gets duller as the earth closes over you. You can still breathe for now. You wish you couldn't. The first real sensation is not fear, it's heat. Trapped in this coffin, your own breath begins to warm the air. Your sweat has nowhere to go. The wood holds it close. Every inhale grows heavier. Every exhale robs you of something you won't get back. You try not to move. There's no room. You lift your hand and feel the lid an inch above your knuckles. You could knock, but there's no one to hear it. You scream once, a reflex more than thought, but the noise dies immediately, swallowed by the dirt. You're alone. Not metaphorically, literally. The darkness is absolute. Your eyes are open. You blink, just to be sure. Nothing changes. Then comes the sound of your heart, loud, in your ears, in your chest, pounding not from exertion, but from understanding. You're buried. You're not dying from violence, or fire, or sharp metal. You're dying from time, from waiting, from the slow surrender of your body to the things it cannot fight. Minutes pass, maybe hours. Time melts, your breathing shortens. You try to count your breaths. 60, 100. You lose track. You try not to panic, but panic comes anyway. Your hands tremble. Your legs twitch. The box creaks slightly with every movement. You imagine the lid splitting, the dirt crashing down. You imagine worse things. Worms. Collapse. Insects drawn to warmth. Then the air changes. Not all at once, but gradually. It gets thinner, harder to pull in. Your lungs still expand, but they're working for scraps now, like trying to breathe through cloth. You gasp. Again. Then again. Shallow. Frantic. You claw at the lid once. Just once. It doesn't move. You start to fade, not from pain, but from absence. No light, no sound, no room, no rescue. Just your thoughts wild, circling, meaningless, and the weight of the earth pressing down on your chest from all sides. Burial alive isn't punishment, it's erasure. And the worst part is knowing it worked. You made it. Or at least, part of you did. The part that still listens, still breathes, still twitches faintly in the dark when someone walks past your cell. You've survived iron, fire, rope, rats, boiling oil, rusted chairs, screaming walls. You've been pierced, peeled, and punished in ways no prayer can soften. But you're still here, curled in your corner, shackled to the wet stone floor, your skin sticky with dried blood, sweat, and silence. The torchlight outside your cell has finally gone out. No more footsteps echo down the corridor. No more screams from the next room. No more laughter from the guards. Just dark and breathing. Yours. The air tastes of rot and cold iron. Your stomach groans with hunger. Your mouth dry as dust. But those are familiar sensations now. Background noise. Like the clink of your chains when you shift, or the scurry of rats along the far wall. You almost find comfort in it. Almost. This is the quiet hour, the one just before dawn. No interrogations, no red-hot pincers, no whispered threats from the priest who sits with the torturer like a shadow pretending to bless. For the first time in what could be days or weeks, you're alone. Your limbs throb in time with your heartbeat. Every bruise, every fracture, every raw patch of skin sings its own lullaby. And you lie there, still, not sleeping, not yet. Sleep has become dangerous. It promises nothing. Sometimes, when your eyes close, you dream of the rack again, of your shoulders pulled too far, of that wet pop in your socket, or the rats, the cage heating, the scratching starting, or worse, nothing at all. Just the dream of dirt falling above you, softly, endlessly, like snow you'll never dig through. But tonight, maybe your body wins. Maybe exhaustion is heavier than memory. Your eyelids flutter. You imagine it, a field, open sky, grass swaying in a warm breeze, a place without walls or blades or smoke, a place where no one calls you heretic, no one asks you to name others. No one forces your mouth open to receive the pear, or your limbs wide for the wheel. Just quiet, just softness. You reach for it, not with your arms, they won't move, but with your mind, gently, as if the image might shatter if you hold it too tightly. Your breathing slows. The stone is cold beneath you, but your body adjusts. One more hour, one more night. You're not dead, not yet. The pain is proof of that. Your ribs rise, fall, rise again. You listen to yourself live. Then, footsteps, distant, soft, getting closer. You freeze. Every muscle clenches. A key rattles. Not your door this time. Somewhere else. A voice mutters something low, a groan, a scream, then silence again. You release the breath you were holding. The chains are still. The air is still. You have a window, a crack in the cruelty. Use it. Sink, drift. You've earned this moment. 3 hours through hell. And now, a whisper of peace. Close your eyes. Sleep if you can. Sweet dreams from the Middle Ages.